In this guided talks, Robert talks to Mark Wilkinson. Mark is a multiple business owner, coach, speaker, and published author. Originally, music was Mark's life as an international house music DJ and record producer. But at 33 years of age, Mark collapsed with an incurable disease. It was the start of a hellish experience as his body froze up over the next 18 months, resulting in him being unable to walk. After hitting rock bottom, Mark took positive action, overcame his health issues, and re-educated himself in a new career in construction health and safety. In 2018, Mark set up his own health and safety consultancy, which meant he could also focus on his various property businesses and develop as a coach and speaker. His debut book, Life Remixed, launched in February 2021. In this guided talks, Robert talks through Mark's amazing story. It really is one to listen to.
Hello and welcome to GYDA Talks. I have a real treat today. I've got a gentleman by the name of Mark Wilkinson with me, and Mark has written a book called Life Remixed, and this is the hero story from the highs of the highs to the lows of the lows to the highs of the highs, and I'm really excited. So without further ado, hello Mark, it's great to have you with us.
Hi Robert, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's going to be an interesting conversation because this is a story of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, to quote the song. But actually, on a more serious note, it's also a conversation about how you make stuff happen. But it's also a story about what do you do when you're down on your uppers. Give us some kind of backstory, Mark, for people who don't know you.
Yeah, so I was resident DJ at Ministry of Sound when I was 25 years of age. I worked in Flying Records for 5 years before that in Kensington Market. I always loved music from a young age, and I started drinking alcohol at 14, and then things just sort of continued from there, and I got more and more into addictions as well as partying and having a good time. I travelled to 65 countries to DJ. I had a record in the top 10. We did a remix of Lou Reed and David Bowie's Satellite of Love in 2004, so that was pretty cool. And travelled all over the globe.
A great drug cocktail.
Quite. And I had a great time. You know, I had a great time. It was amazing fun until one day it wasn't, and I had a physical collapse, and that's when things started to take hold.
So. If it's okay by you, I mean, anyone who enjoys this conversation, go and look at the book, because the book is a laid bare piece. So, I mean, did you just hit a brick wall, or was it sort of slowly coming, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so it wasn't the actual physical collapse there was no real warning of that. My leg just gave way one day when I was walking through my flat in central London. I was 33 and my body just sort of stopped working. I had, thinking back on it, and I've documented this in the book, thinking back on it, there were stomach cramps, there were problems. My body was, I think, trying to tell me that there was inflammation and there was problems going on, but I wasn't really listening at that time. I did keep looking for solutions, but I ended up on the floor that day, and then for the following 18 months after that, my body just froze up. Consequently, or the other way around, basically, ended up feeling like I was on fire, like my joints were on fire, and you couldn't really touch me or anything like that, and yet I was frozen in time. If I stayed too long in one position, I couldn't sleep for more than 2 or 3 hours. I couldn't get out of a car. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't move around. I was shuffling everywhere. And mentally that took its toll hugely, of course, as well.
So this is fascinating. So you've gone from being the man, the man with the moves, the man with the tunes, all the way down to the bottom, stuck. Presumably you're getting no income, you can't work, and so on and so forth. So at that point, does this judge come in, sitting on your shoulder, and start with the "I told you so, you're useless," or "I always knew you're going to end up," or is there a kind of a sage saying there is a way out of this? For every negative, there's a positive. What happens in your mindset?
I wasn't that self-aware at that moment, to be honest. I was I was at the front, I was DJing, I was traveling the globe, I was having the young man's dream and doing all this great stuff, making a living, by the way, out of music, which would have only been my second choice after being a footballer, and I was a crap footballer. So I made money out of music, and I loved it. I mean, what a way to live. But I wasn't self-aware enough at that time, and I certainly didn't get my head around what was happening to me in any way, shape or form. All I was looking for was some sort of solution or something that I could get my head around to be like, okay, I need to understand exactly what is going on, in my life. But I wanted a doctor to diagnose me. That's what I really wanted. For 18 months of agony, mentally and physically, I wanted a doctor to diagnose me, and I couldn't find a doctor. I went to so many, and no doctor could actually, give me an answer to this. And so mentally, to answer your question, mentally, I went down and down and down and down and down, because I was like, well, this life isn't worth living. This body doesn't work anymore. I'm 33, 34 years of age. Is this it?
Okay, so the hero's journey always kind of comes all the way down, and then something triggers or something sparks, or I mean that's how the story is meant to go. I mean, was there a spark, or was it a slow, gradual realization, or did you meet someone? I mean, how do you come back up? Because there is a good story at the end of this.
Yeah, this is a redemption tale, of course, because I'm still here, so that's good, right? But this is a redemption story, because I definitely went through a very, very dark period there. A lot of my greatest fears came true, essentially. Would I not be enough? Would I not be able to earn enough? Would my music not last? Would I, all these great fears, would my health keep going? All this kind of stuff. And all my greatest fears basically came true. But during that 18 months of pain, I was still reaching for some help. And I'd been on, because of the stomach problems earlier in life, I'd been on a few detoxes up to Scotland. And I met this guy, this couple actually, Brian and Annalise Miller, and they're like angels, incredible people, looking after the body, but obviously helping the mind as well. And Brian definitely knew that, he had some answers. He's like Yoda to my Luke Skywalker, if you like. And I think he kind of understood. What I needed, or he definitely understood what I needed. And he gave me a DVD of The Secret, as it was at the time, on a disc. And he gave me this DVD, and he said, well, go and watch that, son, And I was like, all right. So I went and watched it. I gave it back to him afterwards. I went, yeah, cheers. He went, no. He said, go and watch that again. I was like, twice in one day? Okay, all right. I didn't have anything else to do at that moment, so I went, go on then. So I went and watched it twice in one day. Tried to give it back to him again. No. He said, you need to watch it 100 times, Mark. And I was like, right, okay. What he didn't tell me, or what I didn't know at the time, was repetition is mastery. And the more you repeat something, mentally as well as physically, you can actually start to learn what was going on. And in that film, at that moment, there was a beautiful, Bob Proctor and Marcy Sharma have both since recommended and endorsed Life Remixed. They both said it there, but Bob particularly said, disease is 2 words, and you must hyphenate that word, a dis-ease. And you cannot have a dis-ease if you're mentally and physically at ease. And I was like, this is brand new information. I haven't heard this before. And the doctor's telling me I've got an incurable disease a few months before, and now this guy is telling me it's a dis-ease. And actually I am responsible for it, and I can potentially fix it. Okay, I need to know more about this, Robert.
Okay, so people listening are immediately going to go, what is Robert Craven doing talking to someone who's talking about The Secret? Because I have made comments on The Secret. I have met one main real objection to it. And this could be a very short interview. You could just turn me off, but I hopefully not. And that is, I remember meeting this woman at an event I did in Catterick, and she came rushing up to me, and she goes, I've read The Secret, and I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, and here's a picture of the Ferrari I'm going to buy my husband. And I went, right, okay, keep going. She said, well, that's it. All I've got to do is visualize, and it'll happen. And I said, well, what are you doing? And she was part of some pyramid scheme where she was in my humble opinion, I think she was just going to lose her money and she was being ripped off. And she said, no, you don't understand. I've read the book. And all I need to visualize, and this will come true. If I believe enough, it will come true. So my hippie shit detector goes off red alert and says, I'm sorry, I was polite to her, but I that's what I struggle with The Secret. So put me right, please. Okay,
so there's two things there. I mean, one, you must have a visualization. You must have the end goal in mind. You must know where your destination is and what you want to achieve. The thing that's missing from The Secret in that respect is that you have to take some massive action, right? You have to do something, yeah? The good bit about it is you must believe first, and the law of attraction is working whether you know it or understand it or not. There's universal laws like the law of gravity that are working that we understand that keeps us on the ground, right? But the law of attraction is something we can't necessarily see, but at the end of the day, it's working whether we understand it or not. So you've got to take some massive action, and clearly you can't just say, I'm going to have this Ferrari and it's going to turn up tomorrow. That's not quite how it works unless you win the lottery. But the point is that you've got to take like progressive action and keep going and keep going and keep going. The other thing that people get wrong about this is there is also another universal law that says force negates. If you try and force something to happen, and you keep forcing it, I see it a lot. I'm a positive thinker. I'm going to think positive. It's going to be all right. I'm going to keep going. If you're trying to force something at all times, it makes it negative. Think of anything. Someone tries to force you to do something, Robert, you're like, oh, no, I'm not up for that. Force negates. So you don't need to force anything, but you do need to have a belief. You do need to have a purpose and vision and goals, and you do need to make progressive action